Every day, countless men, women, and children in Texas are trying to survive in tents under overpasses or in temporary camps, their lives stripped down to the bare minimum. Homelessness is no longer just a number on a report. It has become a full-blown public health emergency, one that is tightly bound up with addiction.
I'm skinnier than I've ever been. I'm starving out here. It's not how it used to be out here anymore. Resources are hard to come by. I don't want to be out here.
I have nowhere to go. I'll stay here in front of the building. You got nice workers that know me by name and everything. They don't like me to stay here, but I have nowhere to go, so I stay here.
For many, substance use traps them in a brutal loop of pain and survival, leaving them stuck on the streets, unable to escape the daily grind of life without stable shelter or support. This crisis isn't only about lacking a roof overhead, it's about the human cost of addiction, untreated mental health conditions, and systems that fail the very people who need help the most. In this video, we're going to dive into how addiction makes the homelessness crisis worse, what keeps people locked in place, and the urgent steps we need to take if we want to break this cycle and bring real lasting change to those affected. Lost in the grip of addiction. The homelessness crisis in Texas is deeply connected to a growing, often overlooked emergency addiction.
You're either dead or you're the walking dead. Heroin. If I could take my anger out on a physical form of heroin, it would die. Put it in your face, and if you're not truly prepared and truly ready to quit doing it, then you're not going to quit doing it.
All across the state, from the busy streets of Dallas and Houston to the quiet backroads of small towns, substance abuse is a major force driving people into homelessness. But how did addiction become so central to the lives of so many people living on the edge? At its heart, addiction is a vicious cycle that's incredibly hard to break, especially when it's layered on top of all the vulnerabilities that come with being homeless. For a lot of people, struggles with drugs and alcohol are both a cause and a consequence of not having a stable place to live. The harsh realities of homelessness, constant insecurity, exposure to danger, and the lack of basic resources pour fuel on addiction. People in these desperate situations often turn to substances to cope with emotional pain, escape past trauma, or simply get through another long, sleepless night in the cold or heat. Over time, that search for relief turns into dependence, and that dependence makes it even harder to find a way out. But this isn't just about one person's private battle. Addiction among people living on the streets sends ripples through the entire crisis. Drugs and alcohol create even more instability, making it harder for people to show up for appointments, follow through on programs, or access the very services meant to help them. Without real treatment, recovery becomes almost impossible, and the cycle just keeps feeding itself. A severe lack of access to quality healthcare, mental health care, and addiction treatment programs makes breaking free incredibly difficult. For someone sleeping outside, just the idea of asking for help can feel overwhelming, especially when they don't believe the system will understand them or make room for their reality. We also can't ignore how closely mental health and addiction are linked. Many people experiencing homelessness are also living with untreated mental health issues, like depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, or PTSD. For them, addiction often becomes a form of self-medication, a way to quiet the noise or numb the pain for a few hours. That combination, substance use on top of untreated mental illness, is especially dangerous, leaving people vulnerable to overdose, exploitation, and violence. So how do we even begin to tackle something this complex? Addressing homelessness in Texas means going beyond just finding beds or temporary housing. It requires a holistic approach that looks at the full picture with addiction right at the center. Effective treatment can't be separated from housing. The two have to go hand in hand. That means offering more than a short-term shelter cot. It means building long-term support systems that connect safe housing with addiction treatment, mental health services, job training, and medical care. Only when we address both the physical and psychological needs of people who are homeless can we start breaking the grip of addiction that keeps so many stuck on the streets. In the bigger picture of Homeless in America, addiction is not just an individual failing, it's a symptom of a system that too often abandons people at their lowest. Ultimately, addiction is not just one person's burden to carry. It's a structural issue that demands a compassionate, coordinated response. The homelessness crisis in Texas isn't going to vanish overnight, but by naming addiction as a key part of the problem, we can start making real, meaningful progress. We can build pathways to recovery and stability for the people who need them most. The real question is, are we willing to do what it takes to break the cycle? Homelessness in Texas, past and present. Let's step back and really look at Texas's homelessness crisis, looking to the past to understand why things feel like they're slipping away today. A decade ago, there was a sense of hope. Across the United States, homelessness in America was slowly trending downward, thanks to focused federal programs and coordinated efforts. In Texas, we saw signs of progress too. Eviction protections, housing support, and affordable housing efforts helped keep the worst of the crisis at bay. Veterans were the standout success story. Their rates of homelessness dropped sharply, showing us what's possible when we commit resources and attention to a specific group. Back then, it felt like we were building a real foundation, creating systems that could lift people up instead of letting them crash through the cracks. Fast forward to 2025, and that hopeful momentum feels like it's fading in the rearview mirror. The picture now is sobering. Tens of thousands of Texans are unhoused, a steep increase compared to the years before COVID. So what happened? The fallout from the pandemic hit like a wrecking ball. Eviction moratoriums expired, rental aid programs wound down, and families found themselves facing a brutal housing market where prices have soared far beyond wages. In cities like Austin, Houston, and San Antonio, rents have shot up, devouring paychecks and leaving the most vulnerable with nowhere to go. Then came the 2025 floods along the Guadalupe River, a devastating disaster that wiped out homes and livelihoods in a matter of hours, leaving countless Texans suddenly without shelter. How does a family rebuild when everything they own has been washed away? The difference between then and now is stark. A decade ago, there was momentum-targeted funding investment in housing, and a clear focus on people most at risk, like veterans, showed us that change was possible. Today, it feels like we're not just stalled, we're sliding backwards. Policies like Texas's House Bill 6, which allows schools to suspend homeless children, tear apart the protections we once worked hard to build. In Dallas, a hospital once intended to serve people without homes was sold off, a painful reminder of promises made and then quietly abandoned. Out west, California's overwhelming homeless population often dominates headlines. But Texas's struggle runs parallel in many ways. Both states are confronting the same harsh reality: rising costs, shrinking support, and a system struggling to keep people from falling through. In the broader story of homeless in America, these states are warning signs of what happens when progress isn't protected and expanded. Back then, we saw clearly what could work: compassionate policies backed by real resources. Now we're facing a landscape where the human beings behind the numbers are too easily forgotten. The kids doing homework in parked cars, the families displaced by floods, the veterans wandering from shelter to shelter. So we have to ask, what will it take to turn this tide of despair? The past reminds us that change is possible. The present reminds us that change is urgent. What we need now is action that is bold, immediate, and grounded in empathy. We can't afford to let this crisis deepen, not when we already know the tools that can make a difference. As we search for solutions to heal Texas' wounds, we need to carry forward the lessons of what once worked and refuse to accept that this is the best we can do. Prosperity's broken promise. Why does homelessness keep rising in a state as vast and wealthy as Texas? It's a question that digs at the conscience and exposes a hard truth. Even in a booming economy, thousands are still left sleeping on sidewalks, in cars, and under bridges. The reasons are tangled together, born from a harsh mix of economic pressure, social failures, and environmental disasters that hit without mercy. Let's pull this apart and see why Texas, despite its prosperity, can't seem to stem the growing tide of people becoming homeless in America. Housing costs have exploded and people are feeling the impact everywhere. Between 2021 and 2024, rent across the U.S. jumped by about 20%, and Texas's major cities, Austin, Houston, Dallas, are right at the center of the storm. Austin, once a magnet for creatives and tech pioneers, has turned into a nightmare for low-income families. The price of even a modest apartment now feels like a luxury item completely out of reach for those trying to survive on modest paychecks. A single mom juggling 2 jobs or a retiree living off a fixed income can't compete with tech money bidding up the market. For them, affordable housing isn't just rare, it feels almost imaginary. One missed rent payment, one emergency surgery, one unforeseen bill, and suddenly the street is the only option left. This isn't just data on a chart, it's a punch to the gut for real people. Then you've got inflation slipping in like a thief in the night, stealing the little stability people have scraped together. The cost of food, gas, utilities, and healthcare keeps climbing while wages barely move. In Texas, where the minimum wage hasn't changed in years, working people are being squeezed from every side. A cashier, a home health aide, or a warehouse worker can be one blown tire or one engine failure away from losing their home. It's cruel math when your paycheck can't cover the basics. Having a roof becomes more of a dream than a guarantee. This economic pressure cooker isn't just an inconvenience. It's a direct pipeline into homelessness, pushing more people over the edge and into the margins. But it's not only about dollars and cents. The environment is turning up the pressure too. The 2025 floods along the Guadalupe River were devastating, wiping out homes and livelihoods in a single terrifying surge. Families who had a place to live one day were standing in mud and wreckage, the next suddenly part of the Homeless in America story overnight. These disasters don't just damage buildings, they rip apart lives, leaving people with nowhere to go and no clear path forward. Layer onto that the social wounds, discrimination, untreated mental health struggles, communities stretched past their breaking point, and you get a perfect storm. Texas's prosperity shines bright on the surface, but behind that glow is a long shadow where too many people are left to fend for themselves. So the real question is, what will it take to actually fix this? That's where the real conversation has to start. Bold hope for Texas's crisis. The homelessness crisis in Texas hits like a punch to the chest, and we can't keep tossing quick fixes at a problem that needs deep structural change. It's time for action that's real, determined, and rooted in compassion. At the center of all this is the housing shortage, a giant we have to confront directly. Texas needs to commit to building at least 100,000 truly affordable housing units over the next 5 years. That isn't just a statistic. It's a lifeline for families teetering on the edge of losing everything. Look at Finland's Housing First approach. Between 2008 and 2015, they reduced homelessness by 35% by making housing the first step, not the last reward. If they can do it, Texas can too, transforming desperation into dignity by simply starting with a safe place to live. But we can't just build new units and call it a day. We also have to stop people from losing the homes they already have. Reinstating strong eviction protections like the ones that kept families housed during the COVID-19 crisis would prevent thousands from being pushed onto the streets. Rent subsidies for low-income households aren't charity. They're a bridge to stability, a way of saying, you deserve a secure place to live. These programs give people a fighting chance to recover from setbacks, without the constant fear that one bad month will put them out on the curb. Imagine what it would mean for a struggling parent to go to bed, knowing their kids won't have to sleep in a car tonight. That's the kind of hope we need to bring back. Beyond housing, we have to go straight at the deeper causes with the same intensity. Job training tailored to people experiencing homelessness, similar to efforts backed by the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, can open real pathways to steady income. Pair that with strong mental health care and addiction treatment, because when 25-30% of people who are homeless are living with serious mental health issues, ignoring that is like pretending a broken bone doesn't exist. Texas Department of State Health Services could take the lead by sending out mobile clinics and outreach teams to meet people where they are in camps under bridges and shelters. After disasters like the 2025 floods that left families homeless in a single night, rapid response teams should be ready to move in immediately, offering emergency shelter and long-term relocation plans. By working closely with FEMA and advocacy groups like Texas Housers, we can make sure people aren't left drowning in paperwork when they're already drowning in loss. This isn't about temporary patches, it's about transformation. Shelters themselves need to evolve safe, clean, and truly supportive spaces, like San Antonio's Haven for Hope, where around 90% of participants eventually move into permanent housing. Allow pets create private or semi-private spaces, and build in services that heal and empower, not just warehouse people for a night. These aren't fantasy ideas. They're proven strategies that already work and can be expanded. In the broader picture of homeless in America, Texas has both the resources and the heart to lead by example. But it all starts with choosing compassion over indifference. Let's shape a future where every Texan has a safe place to call home, where sidewalks and parking lots are no one's bedroom. The only question left is, are we truly ready to fight for that future? Igniting hope through urgent action. As I sit with the weight of this crisis, my heart breaks for the kids curled up in the backs of cars, the veterans wandering the streets after giving everything, and the families swept away by the relentless floods of 2025. Homelessness in Texas isn't just a policy failure, it's a wound to our shared humanity. We've settled for surface-level fixes like Houston's so-called civility ordinance that pushes people out of sight, or Dallas's constant encampment sweeps that move people from one patch of concrete to another without ever offering a real home. These aren't solutions. They're illusions punishing those who are already hurting because a system failed to catch them. When we talk about homeless in America, this is what it looks like: a society chasing profits and polished images while turning away from the human cost. And yet deep down, I know Texas, with its bold spirit and immense resources, is capable of so much more. This isn't just about statistics, even though 28,000 unhoused Texans in 2024 is a number that hits like a punch to the gut. It's about the people behind that number: the single mother priced out of her apartment by rising rents, the teen cast out for simply being who they are, the elderly man whose only comfort at night is a worn-out blanket. We are failing them not because we don't have the tools, but because we haven't fully chosen to use them. Look at Haven for Hope in San Antonio, where about 90% of participants move into permanent housing within a year. That's proof, plain and simple, that we can change lives when we commit to it. But one bright spot is not enough. We need a complete shift in how we view homelessness, not as a personal shortcoming to be judged, but as a shared challenge we are all responsible for confronting. So here's my call to action, Texas. It's time to step up. I'm calling on our leaders to throw out punitive policies and channel serious resources into real solutions, starting with affordable housing, 100,000 new units over the next 5 years. Invest in mental health care so we can reach the 25-30% of unhoused people fighting those battles largely in silence. Restore protections for students, because no child should be punished or pushed out of school for being homeless. And to every Texan hearing this, let's swap judgment for empathy. Volunteer at a shelter, support a local nonprofit, or simply take a moment to speak to someone on the street and recognize their humanity. Businesses, this includes you too. Partner with community organizations to create pathways to jobs and safe spaces. Look at Australia's Long Walk Home campaign, where people walk to raise awareness and funds. Why can't we spark something like that here? What is one thing you could choose to do today that might change the story for someone without a home? Texas has the grit and the heart to lead the way. Let's prove it by building a future where no one is left sleeping outside. This fight is ours to win, and it begins with us. Texas Cry, ending the crisis of the unhoused. The homelessness emergency in Texas, with more than 28,000 people living without a stable place to call home, and an 8% jump since the pre-COVID years, has become a raw, aching wound on the spirit of the Lone Star State. It's heartbreaking to witness families huddled beneath overpasses, veterans wandering the streets after sacrificing everything for their country, and children stripped of the comfort and stability every young person deserves all. While Texas boasts booming development, glittering skylines, and endless open land, this isn't just another statistic buried in a government report. It's a human tragedy unfolding in real time, driven by skyrocketing rents, unrelenting inflation, and the devastating aftermath of the 2025 Guadalupe River. Flood's a disaster that wiped out homes, belongings, and the fragile sense of security thousands were clinging to. Overnight, ordinary Texans lost everything and found themselves thrust into a crisis they never imagined they would face. Policies that lean toward punishment rather than compassion have only deepened the suffering. Houston's public camping bans, for example, push the unhoused further into the margins. School rules that allow campuses to suspend homeless students create yet another barrier for struggling families. Instead of lifting people up, these measures push them down, reinforcing the idea that homelessness is a crime rather than a crisis. In truth, this is the face of homeless in America when promises don't match action, when policy becomes a bandage on a wound that needs healing from the inside out. A decade ago, we saw glimpses of what genuine progress could look like. Veteran homelessness was cut nearly in half. Eviction protections kept families from falling off the edge. There was momentum of belief that with enough effort, enough coordination, enough courage, we could build a system that truly protected the vulnerable. But today the obstacles are steeper, more tangled than ever. A perfect storm of natural disasters, inflated living costs, low wages, and crumbling safety nets has left thousands with nowhere to turn. In 2024, the national homeless count soared to 771,000, the highest in modern U.S. history. And Texas's share reflects the harsh truth: our response simply hasn't kept pace with the scale of need. Texas is not alone. Across the nation, homeless in America has become a mirror, reflecting deep fractures in our society. Still, I refuse to believe that this is where the story ends. Texas has both the heart and the resources to shift the tide if we choose to act boldly. Building 100,000 affordable homes within the next 5 years isn't a dream. It's the kind of decisive move that can redefine the future. Look at Finland. With a housing-first strategy, they cut homelessness by 35%. The blueprint exists. The question is whether we'll follow it. But housing alone won't fix everything. We need expanded mental health care for the 25 to 30% of unhoused Texans battling serious conditions. We need rapid response teams ready to step in after disasters, so families aren't left sleeping in cars or on sidewalks. And we urgently need to overturn policies that punish children for something entirely beyond their control. School should be a lifeline, the one place they can feel safe, supported, and hopeful. Compassion must replace punishment. San Antonio's Haven for Hope shows what's possible when humanity leads the way. 1,700 people served daily, and 90% transitioning to permanent housing within a year. Scaling successes like this isn't optional, it's essential. I envision a Texas where no child trembles beneath a freeway at night, where no family is shattered by a storm with nowhere to go, and where no person is left alone to navigate the shadows. This crisis tests what we stand for, and it calls each of us lawmakers, business owners, neighbors, and ordinary Texans to rise. Raise your voice for truly affordable housing. Volunteer at a shelter. Support frontline organizations. Advocate for policies that lift people up instead of pushing them out. If we refuse to look away, we can rewrite the story of homelessness in Texas and breathe hope back into the larger narrative of homeless in America, one life, one family, one act of compassion at a time.